Have you ever thought that something as simple as lying down during the day could secretly be making your anxiety worse and dragging you deeper into depression? Spending hours in bed, even when you're not sleeping, might feel harmless or even comforting, but it could be messing with your body's natural rhythms, draining your energy, and leaving you stuck in a cycle of exhaustion and hopelessness. What seems like rest could actually be the hidden habit holding you back from feeling better. A few years ago, while dealing with anxiety and depression, I noticed a habit that seemed harmless at first but was actually making everything worse. I spent a lot of my time lying down, even when I wasn't sleeping. Whether it was scrolling through my phone, watching TV, or just lying there trying to rest, it felt like the easiest way to cope with how I was feeling. But over time, I realized this habit wasn't helping me feel better. In fact, it was draining my energy, making me feel more tired, and trapping me in a cycle of exhaustion and sadness. I came to understand that this habit was disrupting my body's internal clock, which is responsible for keeping everything in sync. This clock, called the circadian rhythm, controls important functions like blood pressure, body temperature, hormone levels, appetite, and, most importantly, the cycle of sleeping and waking. When your internal clock is working properly, you feel awake and energized during the day and ready to rest at night. But when it's out of sync, everything feels off, and that can lead to issues like insomnia, constant fatigue, and even worse mental health symptoms. What I didn't realize before was that lying down sends a powerful signal to the brain. It tells your body it's time to relax and prepare for sleep. That's why lying down outside of your usual bedtime can confuse your brain. When you spend hours in bed during the day, your body starts to lose the ability to tell the difference between sleep time and wake time, throwing your natural rhythm completely off balance. For me, the impact was overwhelming. Even though I was technically getting enough hours of sleep at night, I always woke up feeling drained and unmotivated. It felt like no amount of rest was enough. The anxiety seemed to tighten its grip on me, and the depression grew heavier. The more tired and defeated I felt, the more time I spent lying down during the day, hoping it would help me feel better. But it only made things worse. When I started learning more about how my body and mind worked, I realized that breaking this habit could be a game changer. One of the first things I was told was to reserve lying down for actual sleep and avoid using my bed for anything else during the day. It was hard at first. There were days when I felt completely drained, and the idea of sitting up seemed impossible. But I forced myself to make small changes, like sitting in a chair instead of lying down, or taking short walks when I felt overwhelmed. These small adjustments began to pay off. Over time, my sleep became deeper and more refreshing, and I started to feel a little more energy each day. The weight of anxiety and depression didn't completely disappear, but it felt more manageable. Breaking the habit of lying down during the day wasn't just about improving my sleep. It was about reclaiming control over my body and mind, one small step at a time. Now, I share this experience because I know how easy it is to fall into the trap of thinking that lying down is harmless. But for those of us dealing with anxiety and depression, it can be a hidden enemy that quietly worsens everything. By making simple but intentional changes, you can start to break free from this cycle and create a foundation for real, lasting improvement in your mental health. When I realized how much the habit of lying down during the day was affecting my mental health, I knew I had to make a change. At first, it felt almost impossible. Dealing with anxiety and depression often leaves you with little to no motivation to break out of these patterns. Lying down felt safe, comforting, and familiar, but I began to see it as a silent enemy that was keeping me stuck. So, I decided to fight back, one small step at a time. The first thing I focused on was creating a clear boundary between rest and sleep. I set specific times to go to bed and wake up, no matter how tired or unmotivated I felt. It wasn't easy. Some nights, I would lie awake, unable to fall asleep. Other mornings, I would feel exhausted, tempted to crawl back under the covers. But I stayed consistent. Even on days when I slept poorly, I resisted the urge to lie down during the day. Instead, I found alternative ways to rest, like sitting in a comfortable chair, sipping tea, or simply closing my eyes while staying upright. I also realized I needed to move more, even if it was just a little. In the beginning, I would take short walks around the block. It didn't feel like much, but it was enough to get my body moving and distract my mind from spiraling thoughts. Over time, those walks became longer and more enjoyable. On tough days, when the weight of my emotions made it hard to even leave the house, I reminded myself why I was doing this. It wasn't just about breaking a habit. It was about giving myself a chance to heal and feel better. One of the biggest changes I made was transforming my environment. I rethought how I used my bed and the spaces around me. I made my bedroom a place solely for sleeping. During the day, I opened the curtains wide to let in natural light, which helped me feel more awake and connected to the world outside. I also set up comfortable spots in other rooms where I could read, relax, or even zone out without the temptation of lying down. These small adjustments made a huge difference. I also began to structure my days in a way that gave me less downtime to fall back into old habits. When I had too much unplanned free time, the temptation to lie down was strong. So, I started creating a loose schedule of small tasks. Simple things like organizing a drawer, watering plants, or reading a few pages of a book while sitting up became part of my routine. These tasks gave me a sense of purpose and made the days feel less overwhelming. Exposure to natural light became one of my secret weapons. I learned how important sunlight is for regulating the body's internal clock. It helps your brain know when it's time to be awake and when it's time to sleep. So, I made it a point to spend time outside every day, even if it was just sitting on a park bench or walking on a sunny street. On days when I couldn't go outside, I made sure to spend time near a window with plenty of natural light. This simple habit not only helped my body get back in sync, but also lifted my mood in ways I didn't expect. Another key lesson I learned was how to listen to my body and understand the kind of tiredness I was feeling. Sometimes, what felt like physical exhaustion was actually emotional or mental fatigue. On those days, instead of lying down, I tried to address the underlying feelings. I might call a friend, watch something uplifting, or just sit quietly and let myself process my emotions. Learning to respond to my feelings in a healthier way was crucial for breaking the cycle of turning to my bed as a way to escape. Changing such a deeply ingrained habit took patience and self-compassion. There were days when I slipped up and spent too much time lying down, especially when things felt particularly hard. Instead of beating myself up, I reminded myself that setbacks are a normal part of progress. What mattered most was getting back on track and continuing to move forward. Over time, I started noticing real changes. My sleep improved. I woke up feeling more refreshed and alert. I had more energy during the day and felt less overwhelmed by anxiety and depression. The process wasn't perfect, and I still have days where it's a struggle, but I've built new habits that help me manage my mental health more effectively. What I've learned is that avoiding lying down during the day is more than just a rule to follow. It's an act of self-care. It's about breaking a cycle that keeps you stuck and replacing it with small, intentional choices that support your well-being. These changes may seem minor, but they can make a huge difference in how you feel over time. I share this because I know how easy it is to fall into the trap of thinking that lying down is harmless, especially when you're battling anxiety and depression. But even the smallest changes can have a big impact. By reserving your bed for sleep, creating a daily structure, and staying connected to natural light and movement, you can start to shift your mindset and your habits. It's a process, and it takes time, but every little step you take is a step toward feeling better and reclaiming your life.